Amakeni.
Mlolongo TV, karibu nyangino. Ni tarehe 30 mwezi kwa saba na mkamba ila tarehe 30 na indalama 31st ni khumalanga mwezi kwa saba, lakini nyangino machineke fika kutiranga saa moja ndizidaka mama saa 12 ndizidaka 40 chira khulabana nde matangazo nende mahojiano kwa mrucho shibala sha Kenya halaba nabo la khulla timbeka sim county ya Nairobi na khulabana kuitsanga live khulla timbeka teneto la kuchaka machineke fuisana Mlolongo TV khulabana kwa nabana nawe kala khulla mutimbara cha bukhane nde county cha bukhane na mrucho shibala sha Kenya na changa khubona Mlolongo TV khulabana khuranga report ene khulla timbeka teneto akhwelesi makhuba kalabana ketsanga namna gani. Kumbuka Mlolongo TV nyangino mrucho shibala sha Kenya mruchi msamo Ruto yakabande mukhungano kwa faraga shingana balanga mluswahili yakabande mukhungano kwa siri sana nende deputy president Mwami Kithure Kindiki na khokoroba bora namna gani khokoroba mu namna gani, lakini kosi nende kosi karibu kwa machani kefu nyangino report chikhongo chiri Mlolongo TV ne kama tolonda khu nyanga ino.
We have only two missions here today. First of all, as Linda Mwananchi, we have gone around the country.
Kama Linda Mwananchi shilibano Mlolongo TV shakana nende Mwami Kalonzo okutira kwenjeresia okutirisi nende butirisi bwisha mashabo ababemire benabo bali mu opposition khula kushamushirisha Linda Mwananchi vele sinja inganakani yabo nyanga ino.
There are no time, only absolutely no time.
Na ndabana khule sinja imbaha yo Mwami Kalonzo Musyoka bulano nyange Mlolongo TV yele sinja sharone bobukhani akarikari kushamushirisha Linda Mwananchi tawe na shakho sinja ama shakho subungwane ndo mrucho chibala cha Kenya kubena njiranga mserikali khole kasi na etawe.
I have made one of the most difficult decisions.
Na mutipicha Mlolongo TV ndabana khwe sinja obole wa Aisha Juma walinje Mlolongo bosi bamiranga Omwami William Samoei Ruto isaina khabani yakhanga kabisa mu chama chenesho sha UDA nyanga ino.
My advice to the youth today is that
Talamane ndakanga kena kaka Aisha Juma manembe timbekeza Suna West Mlolongo TV ababuha bakabane benyungo balishokuru mchiro nende bana siasa mutimbara siabkhane mutukora titsanga tsa 2027
ikaunti ibishiga kubuhamba nini
na khulabana kutsanga mu county ya Vihiga umwandichi wefu Omwami Bruno Shadrack Maguli akhwelesi njabo hambani weshama ama we county neyo ya Vihiga nende shibale shino sha Japan. Na khulaba khwenganga abasiane bano ba mabakhana bano ba Harambe Stars bulano balenda shibaru wa shikhongo khupana ne basiane bano ba Senegal ama bakhayi bano khula Senegal baada ya kusamula maboka ne mushikhayi ndi timu ino ya Morocco.
Amakeni.
Mlolongo TV kuchendra kupang 116 timbekasana tia Go TV 116 na shichengi ama shichenjanga tawe alafu Star Times 200 timbekasana tia Facebook ama mitandao uchusi at Lia TV Digital timbekasana tia noinjeresia timbekasana tia free to air tusi khana kama Lia TV Digital na mbebe na urumanga burume butito ku 0733 50 94 na kuchaka nende ripoti khudla khu shamasha Linda Mwananchi Mlolongo TV baada ya kwenda luchendo lwa timbekati rambi mshabala chino cha Kenya county aambi tiosi mtia mshabala cha Kenya bulano Omwami Edwin Sifuna uli misi kushama shenesha Linda Mwananchi ya khabani ya kananga nenda vemiri khurula shama shenesha na Omwami Kalonzo Musyoka na bali avemiri bandi bali mu murango kwenoko kwa Linda Mwananchi nyangino okutsira kwenjeresia obulafu bwo Omwami Kalonzo Musyoka kuyunga enda shama shenesha sha Linda Mwananchi khuresa uti Omwami Edwin Sifuna na nabolanga inyuma lokho kanende Omwami Kalonzo Musyoka okutsira khaba shifumi shoburuchi omwaka kwa 2027.
We have only two missions here today. First of all, as Linda Mwananchi, we have gone around the country Your Excellency, our people want to see us together. They want to see one team united as the people who believe that President William Ruto does not deserve a second term, and that the message we have carried from the ground in all these places that we have gone is that we must preach the unity of the opposition. And it's a unity that is based on certain values, and I'm coming to that as our second agenda here today, is to try to build consensus amongst the leadership of the opposition as to what they view is important to the people of Kenya at this particular moment in time. Your Excellency, increasingly we hear from young people especially that democratic governance and freedoms and the values that are expressed in our constitution are better than these shiny things that we see, because they believe roads can be built by anyone, but only a Democrat will protect the freedoms and rights under our constitution. So we started these consultations or courtesy calls. We had a chat with your brother, Fred Matiang'i. We have come to you. We will be looking for all the other leaders in the opposition with the same message, Your Excellency. And we are hoping that we will not let down Kenyans.
No mwami Edwin Sifuna Khumure mwami Kalonzo Musyoka yeye amehuunga ndi chama cha Linda Mwananchi nomba tawe mwami Sifuna kama na munyanga Kalonzo abene bachenda ngala mwami Kalonzo yeye ame nomba tawe Khumure mwami Kalonzo nasonga khando kumacheni kefu nyanga ino.
There are no time, only absolutely no time for this country but for themselves. And therefore, as I welcome this wonderful team on behalf of Wiper Patriotic Front, I am so thrilled because you have also come kulinda Kalonzo. Because I'm under an attack, a terrible attack, that I met William Ruto yesterday, even this morning. I'm supposed to be joining him for 7 o'clock presser. Understand you'll be asked the question, are you talking to the opposition? That's the reason he has called for this press conference. So that we are talking to all of them, including Kalonzo. Umekuja kunilinda kweli. Kulinda hilo jina ambalo kwa uwezo wake Mwenyezi Mungu nimejaribu sana kulilinda. Wakati wa kulinda katiba, kulinda utu wetu kama wananchi, the right to a free democratic society is clearly enshrined in our Constitution 2010. It's a document that has enabled even you, Linda Mwananchi, to get to where you are. The right to assemble, the right to go for the highest office in the land. And so we know.
Mlolola TV walinji waziri umukogo na kajenda na umukogo na kaba haya mchibalisha Kenya kabla le chama cha ODM mchibe shiunganga ndi chama cha UDA kulomba broad based mama Aisha Juma bilano abolangambo ya rure rasmi mchama cha UDA inyuma lo khorwa amakobo kahali malai mchama cha UDA mama Aisha Juma abolangambo kuchechera nyangino chalabana uskanga ndi bimakobo koske chama cha UDA tawe ni nyanga busi bamuyanganga mchama cha UDA bamuyenje kama uli independent nombala bana khamanga shipande shiakha sho kuyunga ni mutikora jisanga cha 2027 mama Aisha Mohamed nasunganga ama Aisha Juma Mohamed nasunganga machonikefu nyanga ino.
I have made one of the most difficult decisions of my political life. From today, Aisha Juma Karisa Katana is no longer a member of the United Democratic Alliance, UDA. This decision is not an act of anger. It is an act of conscience. It is a decision born out of love for Kilifi, faith in its people, and unshakable belief that our county deserves leadership that listens, serves, and delivers. As we move through this transition, Wananchi and the public will play a key role in shaping the next steps. Your voice, your guidance and your expectations will inform the direction we take. This movement belongs to you. My fellow residents of Kilifi, I urge you to remain peaceful, united, and hopeful. Let us reject division, embrace one another, and continue this journey with dignity and courage. As your leader, I have chosen to stand with you. I will continue to listen to your voices, defend your democratic choices, and protect your right to determine your own political future without intimidation or interference.
Na mama Aisha Juma na rulanga mshamasha o shamasha cha UDA kutsimba katimba cha Wesuna timba ka Nyanza bulana bo timba ka neso bakabana benyungwa baleshe khurumishana bana siasa mutsikora tsanga temberino cha 2027 kadakari bemiri khandi babana benyanga mulanga bo khabe bashiranga makani kabo okhuba ne khubana ndabuchusi bo khola mkhoka khane kwa khana ne siasa so khupana ne khurera mirengo cha khane ne khupana mutsikora tsanga cha 2027.
My advice to the youths today is that we have to work in peace, because some people have decided to use the youth as their goons. We are trying by all means and advising the youth so that they avoid being used as goons. When someone gives you only 500 shillings and you kill another person, what are you going to gain out of that? That is the main thing that we are doing here today, so that our people can understand the importance of working together and actually passing our message of love to everyone and supporting the people of our choice. And let us know our rights. Let us choose the right people who are going to lead us in peace, not people who are leading us to chaos. We don't want chaos. And especially regarding Ruba, we don't want chaos.
Vijana tunawatuma watoe watu wetu mashinani wakuje wachukue vipande na kura, kwa sababu we as Luos tuko wengi kabisa katika hii taifa letu la Kenya. Na wengi wetu wamekuwa na negligence, wamekuwa na udhaifu wa kutochukua vipande ama kutochukua kura. And most of these people ni vijana. They can make a lot of noise hapa kwa field na hawana kitambulisho. Na kuwa mobilize pia inakuwa ni ngumu. So we've came up with a strategy of using a youth to catch a youth. Na la mwisho, I want to tell these leaders who used to call youths goons. We are not goons, we are youths. We are not goons, and we are the future leaders.
So now that our hero Raila Amolo Odinga is the late, we are no longer going to demonstrate, we are no longer going to be used as goons. That's why I want to congratulate my brother Osama, the president of Youth UDA County Nzima. Together with Bunge la Wananchi, when we are united, no one will defeat us. We are going to ensure that our youths are put in order and are empowered and according to our constitution. And no politician is going to use our youth as goons.
Iweneyo ni Suna West nibakata mkhula tibakata Nyanza, lakini kutia county no ya Vihiga bulano governor wa county eneo mwame Otichilo bulano abulangbo okwambana nende shibala chano sha Japan chalibashiranga maendeleo timbakata eneto tia mshibala sha Vihiga chingana kwandi cha akuraranga report eneo mwandishi wa fama chene mwame Bruno Shadrack Maguli.
Ikaunti vishiga kuvuhamba nini kibara cha Japan baziza kugingura vusibichi muzisibitari hanenene bwizi ngende bulimi n'uburindi bw'ibyukurya kugingura masomo muzisikuru n'ukurwana n'ibifwa bivyengonero n'uburwani hagati habakaye n'abasaza muzi nyumba yago gabori yui mukungano gurohizi yui muridara dinene wambare rwa ambassador wikibara cha Japan Mazura Hiroshi agenihiziwi na gavana w'ibishiga Daktari Wilbur Hasirwa Otichiro.
She's doing a very good job on the issue of Zika infestation in the county and how to eradicate that major health problem. So we already have a working relationship, with Japan, and therefore what we will need to do as we engage the ambassador is to explore more areas of interest that we can partner with Japan and be able to work together.
The meeting with you, the tete-a-tete meeting with you, and also the brainstorming session before that was very useful for us. Despite this is only the first visit to your county, just by spending a couple of hours, we have learned a great number of things. But I look forward to learning more from you during the conversation and discussion here. As the governor mentioned, there are some ongoing programs in this country by Japan. One is the Zika infestation research program being conducted by Professor Suzuki, but also there are activities of JICA volunteers in various villages of Vihiga, including the value addition of the agriculture in Vihiga. So these are the starting points of our relationship, but I greatly look forward to deepening this relationship for further productive friendship and long-lasting friendship between Japan and Vihiga.
Makuba yago gamanyi nigadinyirizwa n'ubusingili bw'ikaunti y'Ibishiga.
So the burden of jiggers in the county, Your Excellencies, is that we estimate about 2,000 households are affected by jiggers in the county. Most of it affecting higher sub-county and Sabache sub-county, respectively.
So we've been training together farmers on how to be able to increase the shelf life of the harvested seed. Specifically, JICA has engaged us on rice farming, and after harvesting the rice, we've been training farmers on how to ensure that it is well dried and stored for the next season planting.
Your Excellency, with great humility, I would really wish that we extend this friendship also to the Department of Education, and there are key areas, priority areas, that we see immense potential for collaboration with the government of Japan.
And it was found that our region was on the high rise with the GBV cases, and mostly Vihiga, our county.
Kutura mkaunti y'Ibishiga Luya TV, Ninzi Shadrack, Bruno Maguli.
Na ripoti kufungiranga nyangino ni ripoti kurula kubakana bano ba Harambe Starlets mlolole wa TV bado kusamuliwa nenda basene bano enda babakana bano kurula timbika tia Morocco amabaka ndi mushkhaya bilano balolusi matumaini ko kusamula nenda bano amabakana bano kurula timbika tia Senegal nebele sinja matumaini mahongo mlolole wa TV balabana batiranga kuchingula bipaji bya bukane inyo mbayo kwenoko kulaba mlulu kulaba ko hanga mushibale shino ishati mbeka ntia Morocco kumbuka abakhana bano mlololo TV bakaba batiranga ko bayamba cyenecho nebatira kwitisia nebakho na ka World Cup yabakhana ama yabakhaye kula kha mlusungu kama AFCON.
If the physical tunajua pia we are going to manage, because we are strong. We have been training hard since the first day in the camp, na tunajua we are going to make it tomorrow. We believe the 3 points are going to come. Doesn't mean the physical but si tunajua tunaenda kuchukua points kesho.
So it's a must win game na kila mtu ashajua tuko pabaya, unaona. So ni sisi tu players tujitoa hapo. Coach washamaliza kazi yao, so imebaki sisi. Tukipewa chance kila mtu tatumia, ndio pia to make our fans happy, our country na pia coaches.
Ni game ya kujiredeem. Bado tuko na chance. So game ya kesho si tuko ready na hiyo game. Tunajua haiendi kuwa rahisi, but kulingana na venye tumeprepare tunajua kila kitu inaenda kuwa sawa.
Lolole TV kumbuka bakhana bano balabana ni batiranga khulwana niba balabana bakupanga bakhana bano ba Senegal basi bali banyolanga direct ticket yo kuba mbayicha bachibachi chilonda ko lakini nibanyo ko kandi basi bali niba yanga ebitasi byabo ndokala khashibalisho sha Kenya cha mbayicha no cha qualifies mbeka chino cha World Cup chibasumbule amani shinga na timu ya Harambee Stars imala yokusumbulanga sana lakini maramu badalo bakulanga mjereli ngwana fifu kama Luya TV kubenyeranga babene bashiranga ko mbayicha fu cha mshibalisho sha Kenya chibe chiri mu injira ingwa lafo na no injira simbolo Luya TV kulabana kuitsa kureranga ipicha ama ubori bomru chochola cha Kenya William Samoei Ruto na nyangine kwa kabanda mabuli bunje kwa kabanda nda siasa vanje wachana kwa kubola mkhoka bukhane na benya kubene bali ndra ko balembo umru chochola cha Kenya alabana abonanga namna gani dalabana ne sitakula kutsimu tsibristaru naomba vurume bubiri butaru kutsimbeka cha Luya TV digital mana handi olabana unzelesha kwa maoni koko mbu nyangino otagemeanga mbu umru chochola cha Kenya alabana abonanga shindu shina chira no yenga Luya TV abandu nabanji aundi balenda bakhoka kabukhane kibenyanga muri chochola cha Kenya abena chenjinja kumbuka mi sector ino yobulamu makhokono ka kasha kakabana kareranga ishida mutimbara tsi abukhane na abamenyi banji banenda maswali ya manji kulina bakhokono ka affordable housing na umwami sifuna abe nabo rembo afadhali wa Kenya watengenezewe njia wasikae katika gorofa ya juu baluya be mbulano bebe kolanga shina babe nibare sungo tsinduti asi khutsinga ko chabezibezi kona lakini kosi nende kosi omruchi agenda yomruchi yoshobola cha Kenya yabolanko nyangino ina tofauti sana embarambu nyangino kalabene KTC njia na khulaka nende oboli bebutsira kuba karikari mbo omruchi yoshobola cha Kenya shabola khumukhuba khu umwami kithura kindiki ta kumbuka umwami uparanya khula kushamashana sha ODM blano broad based yabolanga mbo lazima tupate deputy president kutoka chama cha ODM na rais atoke katika chama cha UDA umwami kwa kabane nde Bakairambi mlololo ya TV yo mwami kithura kindiki yakabanda maswali majinare bananga mbukuno wengine wamekuja na mrucho chobola cha Kenya shabena bola khumukhoba kenaka tayo khulinaga mlololo ya TV baada ya kubenda tsipicha tsa nyangino mu state house ndo mwami kithura kindiki ende boli bwa amasama rambi timbeka tenezo mu state house khulinaga mlololo ya TV report yene labani bo lungu ama mrucho shobola cha Kenya labana bola khumukhoba kenaka wazi eno na khoresanga wazi kamba shingoro sha TV ende bosi benya khumanyambu mwelekeo kwa kithura kindiki mwelekeo kwa shamashona sha ODM na ndo mwami oparanya kuti siasa tena cha broad base tena mna gani sema nanga mwami Benjamin Andanje bisa byosi byosi kolabana khula khuti mbeka tena state house khore mrucho shobola cha Kenya omruchi William Samoei Ruto alabana bola khunefu kula mtimbara cha bukhane buzuburume butiti ni 0733505094 mana khanu teleso khumoni koko yolo langambo matarajio koko mrucho shobola cha Kenya yenya kubana tangasi njenga nyangino ni kalena baada yo kubana nde emyakchi necho khuruka isaino khuli almost kubana kulanga mwako kuno kwa 2027 matarajio koko mlololo TV omrucho shobola cha Kenya bena namna gani chana no yanga ko sector ni obulindi omwami Murkomen no injirisia sector ino yamakhukono ka biashara bititi makhukono ka nyota kabanka nakakwitsanga bulei no beshika kwitsanga munjereni lingwana futawe chira makhuwa na manje lakini kosi nende kosi mbako kubena kutsakho imbere kubena ko injirisia nyambo shobola cha Kenya sanga namna gani mrucho shobola cha Kenya kumbuka ya shobola ko makhuwa manje tawe lakini bapinzani bamsukuma ngo khulusi kumba bupinzani saino buli akarikari wesha mashalinda mwananchi kumbuka shama shalinda mwananchi shilinda mkusanyiko wa abandu banji sana na kumbuka mwami Zidoni Sifuna areranga shama shona sha DCP mkari areranga shama shino sha Wiper mkari areranga shama shino sha mwami Eugene wa Malo sana na karibu nende mwami sukuma ngo mrucho shobola cha Kenya mrucho William Samoei Ruto abe nabo la isaino etimbaka kulendra khullembo kulabona kutsako etimbaka teneto mana kubena kutsa kwenjeresia kulabona kutsako namna gani lakini namba yanje kubola kunasi ma 0733505094 unzelese kusho kutia live ku etimbaka tsakabiri omrucho William Samoei Ruto ali nzelese yakumbo muoni koko matarajio ko nyangino kwa namna gani o tegemenga mrucho shobola cha Kenya alaba na nabo langa namna gani ama ile sinja shobola shino makho manje na makho kano ne kama ne kalena ama belo labano nunze le sombo shina shwe nyanga mruchi abena bola ko ne mruchi shobola cha Kenya ne mana kusta mimbere munjire ne kala ndanga tayari urumu bakhe khan umwami Frederick abalangambo rais abole ko makho ka gunzim barambo makho ka gunzim kabeke ko hanga sana kwa luti simbiko sia all kalau na embara timbaka teneto no injeresia timbaka teneto ya Olkalau waliobusi wakola mahuga na kagunzim walitajwa wakaonyeshwa mpaka na magari, lakini mpaka kuleseni mloleo na TV amahuwa manji kashobana kedo kanga timbaka teneto tawe lano umame Frederick kulaba kulinda kumruchi wa shibula cha Kenya abena isinja kumulango direction ilena kumame Murkomen abena kuchesinja kamili abena kusinja ipicha kula timbaka teneto tia obulindi buli namna gani. Kumbuka mwame Soipan tuya yaiso kwa idoketi eneo na kabla etiene yo mwame Soipan tuya abena kuna isi bungo buyangu bwenobo walinje nende mwame ubuli Professor Kithure Kindiki walinje ku sector yeneye na kumbuka in 2024 abana bajenzi banji beru sana timbaka teneto mu county ya Nairobi obulindi hula 2024 mbako kulesene 2026 seno ne aundi miaka chitaru chine ama chitaru ni nusu nomba chibiri ni nusu alia ama kuba kishoba kubila itawe umurucho shibula cha Kenya alabana kuresa ku wazi kama bakenya kubena kumanya ku nomba tawe alafu nda bulangano omwami Andanje sente gemeangaza umurucho shibula cha Kenya abena sungaho makokana ka obulamu kuba obutinyo barambu mahuko na kabula mubinyu mafrakani na mahuko manji kabkhane khulinanga murucho shibula shakene nabo lambu nyangino alabana yele sinjehu mafraka alabana keka khonde shilingi yabkhane nomba shilingi 10 nomba shilingi 6 ama alabana awlenanga khumahuko kenaka kutaje mbaka chakabere alabana ko yakhulindanga ta timbaka chakabere mayo khumanya khusanga live khubira timbaka chakabere obulangambo a national conversation of the Kenyan future the state of Nairobi khulindako kala kula timbaka teneto alafu ndi abo ngambo omwami omukhwasi Andanje alanga mukhwasi Andanje yakonyolanga bulai sana umurucho shibula cha Kenya aboleko kumukubukana ka aboleko kumukubukana ka chira balwale banji basanga humi ya msibitari ne shembara kali mkubwa malai sana tawe. Alafu Beatrice kutoka Vihiga anasema kwamba rais asifocus sana na wale wapinzani, afanye tu kazi yake itamuanika vizuri ifikapo mwaka 2027. Rumna mwa Beatrice na asubuhi kubehulo langa mashabiki mmefibalai sana kula timbaka za Kimilili timbaka na tia Tranzoya timbaka na county ya Bungoma na kuberenda shabiki muyaha ube no kuboranga bwala banali ndrango boli bo murucho shibula cha Kenya kula timbaka na tia Siaya umenye Siaya ni oma mjom soronge ni ichinganga sana bajaliwa, lakini khanda baliyo bali timbaka teneso batwinire sana benya kumurisho murucho shibula cha Kenya alabana abo laho namna gani ngoyo murucho shibula cha Kenya shingano mulolanga afu aresutie indai yezanga kubona ndaba Kenya nyangino achinjire tablet hiye na achenda nga mwenjene ilingua alafu afungurunga mliango nende balangambo bose bali naga sibaka za State House na kandi slide tiko na yama na afungurunga namna yomlo lola TV kulabana kutsiranga kwenjere sia kulabana kutsako namna gani timbara sina chakabiri kumure umrucho shibula sha Kenya umruchi William Samuel Ruto mbambo timbaka chakabiri timbaka chanja tia Facebook at TV digital na urbo ko promo diti timbaka teneto kulabana kutsiranga kusoma no kusia kwenjere simbo kulabana kupola ko namna gani maono ko namna gani timbaka chakabiri kutia timbaka tuno tia State ya Nairobi kulisi umrucho shibula cha Kenya abo langani namna gani inonlio TV imoni iyomluya
to what I believe will become the most consequential national conversation since the adoption of our Constitution in 2010. A national conversation about Kenya's development charter. This is a national undertaking about the future of our republic, about the development imperatives enshrined in the articles of our Constitution, attainment of the Constitution's high development aspirations, and the opportunities we owe future generations. This national conversation must rise above politics, transcend electoral cycles, and unite us around a national development priorities, informed public policy, catalyzed investments, and most importantly, inspired the promulgation of our new Constitution. As Vision 2030 approaches its horizon, our responsibility is not simply to replace it with another government document or plan. Our responsibility is far greater under the 2010 Constitution. That is, to craft a new national development charter that gives effect to the development imperatives enshrined in the Constitution and to decide together what kind of Kenya we want to build over the next generation and beyond. That conversation belongs to each one of us and to all of us. But before we decide where we should go next, we must first reflect honestly on the journey we have traveled. Since our independence more than 6 decades ago, the world has witnessed 3 great waves of industrialization and economic transformation, and Kenya has stood at the threshold of each one of them. Each wave lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, transformed low-income economies into high-income nations, and created new folded between the 1960s and 80s. It involved the East Asian tigers, including South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, which transformed themselves into prosperous, high-income, industrialized economies. The second was in the late 1970s. China, together with Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and Mauritius, embarked on bold economic reforms that lifted hundreds of millions of their out of poverty and transformed their economies into globally competitive manufacturing and investment hubs. The third wave began in the early 90s. Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, and Cape Verde embraced reforms, expanded exports, attracted investments, and fundamentally changed the trajectory of their economies within one generation. All these major developments, but we did not take full advantage of them. In 1965, for example, Kenya and South Korea each had a GDP per capita of approximately $110. Today, South Korea exceeds $36,000 compared to ours of $2,400, a multiple of 15. In 1980, when China began its economic reforms, its GDP per capita stood at approximately $200. Kenya's was then $450. China overtook us, and today has a GDP per capita exceeding $14,000, a multiple of 6 compared to ours. When Vietnam embarked on economic reforms in the early 90s, Vietnam's income per person was roughly half ours. Today, Vietnam's GDP per capita stands at approximately $, more than double ours. Bangladesh has followed a similar remarkable path. Even more sobering is the fact that we are now being challenged by countries much closer to home. Ghana's GDP per capita is about $3,200, roughly 30% higher than ours. While Zimbabwe, after enduring decades of profound economic hardship, has recovered to a GDP per capita of about $3,000, now slightly exceeding ours. The question we must ask ourselves candidly and honestly is why other nations have fulfilled so much of their potential while we have repeatedly fallen short. More importantly, what must we now do differently to ensure that the next chapter of Kenya's development story is fundamentally different from the last? Citizens, there is, however, some good news. We can, we must, and we shall together get it right this time round. History rarely announces the arrival of defining moments. Yet there are occasions when the forces shaping the world create opportunities that come perhaps once in a generation. I believe we are on the threshold of one such historic moment. I believe so for 4 compelling reasons. First, 4 years ago, our priority as a nation was not to imagine Kenya's next chapter. It was to survive global economic turbulence, restore stability, rebuild confidence, and place our economy back on a firm foundation. Together, we achieved that. We have restored macroeconomic stability. We have stabilized our currency. We have rebuilt our foreign exchange reserves to over $15 billion, providing 6.5 months of import cover. Inflation has fallen. Borrowing costs have declined. Investor confidence has returned. Last year, for example, Kenya attracted a record $3.2 billion in foreign direct investment, more than double the amount recorded in 2022. The 2025 IMD World Competitiveness Ranking placed Kenya as the most competitive economy in Africa, reflecting the confidence our reforms have restored. Because we have restored stability, rebuilt investor confidence, and laid a firm foundation for our economy, now is the perfect opportunity for Kenya to begin shaping the next phase of our national development. That is why, in my State of the Nation address last year, I challenged us to begin thinking beyond the immediate demands of today and to start imagining a futuristic roadmap for our nation. That was not simply a call to dream. It was a call to prepare and an invitation to begin building the institutions that will support Kenya's long-term transformation. That journey has already begun. We have already established the National Infrastructure Fund to ensure the investments essential for Kenya's transformation are financed sustainably. It is also why we have established the Sovereign Wealth Fund to preserve and invest the wealth of our nation so that today's prosperity becomes tomorrow's opportunity, shared fairly between present and future generations. Together, these institutions represent more than new opportunities. They embody a philosophy of nation building, that lasting prosperity is built through institutions that outlive governments, inspire long-term investment, safeguard intergenerational wealth, and provide confidence in our economy. The second reason why I believe this is our moment is because our current roadmap is approaching its destination. Vision 2030 has brought us this far, but it is approaching its horizon. It has served Kenya well. It transformed the way we think about national development, provided a common direction, inspired investment, guided policy in the public space, and demonstrated the power of long-term planning. But honesty also requires us to acknowledge that some of its ambitions remain unattained. In several respects, we are still falling short of even the very standards we set out for ourselves. Vision 2030 set a target of Kenya becoming an upper middle income country by 2030. So far, we are off target. This is not a criticism of Vision 2030, nor is it a reason for disappointment. Rather, it is an opportunity to proudly learn from our successes, reflect with honesty on where we have fallen short, and define together Kenya's next long-term vision. The third reason why this is our moment is that the next great wave of economic transformation will, I believe, be African. The world is entering what may become the greatest wave of global economic transformation in the past 6 decades. And for the first time in modern history, its center of gravity is steadily shifting towards Africa. Our continent is the home to the world's youngest and fastest growing population, vast reserves of strategic minerals, immense renewable energy potential, abundant arable land, and rapidly expanding consumer markets. 9 of the world's fastest growing economies are in Africa. And by 2050, 1 in every 4 people on Earth will be African. Increasingly, global investors, manufacturers, innovators, and policymakers are looking to Africa not merely as a continent of future promise, but as the next frontier of global growth and prosperity. While we may not take full advantage of the previous 3 great waves of global transformation, we have a historic moment and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, not just to be part of, but to lead the next transformation. We have positioned Kenya as one of the nations that will define Africa's economic rise. Fourth, and perhaps most profoundly, this conversation is potent because the time has come to fulfill not only the political and governance promise of our Constitution, but also its equally compelling promise of development, national transformation, and shared prosperity. Fellow citizens, the Constitution envisages both a democratic and a wealthy and prosperous nation. Democracy allows us to organize power, protect liberties, and govern ourselves. Through our democratic institutions, our laws and policy reforms, we have steadily transformed that constitutional principle into a proudly democratic national culture. The next chapter of our national transformation journey is to operationalize the Constitution's development charter. The Constitution establishes our national development mandate. It requires us to build a wealthy, economically developed, and prosperous nation, and defines what government must ultimately achieve. A nation that is just, inclusive, and sustainable. A nation where every Kenyan, regardless of circumstance or place of birth, has a genuine opportunity to thrive. Taken together, the provisions of our Constitution reveal something profound. They affirm that the purpose of state power is not simply to administer the affairs of state, but to expand opportunity, promote human dignity, create wealth, and improve the lives of citizens. Development, therefore, is not simply a policy preference of those who govern. It is a constitutional imperative for the governed. While the Constitution's preamble commits us to build a nation founded on human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law, Article 10 of our Constitution speaks to patriotism, integrity, accountability, and sustainable development as among our highest national values. Moreover, our Constitution in Article 43 guarantees every Kenyan the right to the highest attainable standard of health, accessible and adequate housing, and reasonable standards of sanitation, freedom from hunger, and adequate food of acceptable quality, clean and safe water in adequate quantities, social security, and education. Together, we must ask ourselves what these constitutional guarantees should mean in practice. What should an education system worthy of our constitutional promise look like? What should define accessible and adequate housing for every Kenyan? What kind of health system is required to secure the highest attainable standard of health as is provided for in the Constitution? How do we ensure that no Kenyan experiences the indignity of hunger and that every family has access to adequate food of acceptable quality? How do we guarantee universal access to clean and safe water, meaningful social protection, and the opportunity for every citizen to live a life of dignity? Above all, what measurable outcomes should demonstrate that we are truly giving practical effect to these economic and social rights as contained in our Constitution. Equally, we have not defined with sufficient clarity what patriotism, equality, social justice, and sustainable development should demand of us as government, as institutions, leaders, or citizens. Yet, these constitutional aspirations cannot fulfill themselves. We must, as a nation, collectively define the standards by which they should be measured and establish a common national development charter for their realization. Until we do so, our development and progress will remain subject to the ebb and flow of political expediency, changing priorities, competing interpretations, and fluid guesswork. A national development charter for the attainment of these noble constitutional imperatives cannot be designed by politicians alone, nor by any single institution, profession, or interest group. It must be shaped by the people of Kenya themselves through an open, inclusive, and honest national conversation. For the Constitution belongs to the people, and so too must the vision that gives it practical expression. They demand the wisdom of our farmers and workers, the ingenuity of our entrepreneurs and innovators, the experience of our professionals and scholars, the moral leadership of our faith communities, the energy of our young people, and the participation of every patriotic citizen who believes in Kenya's future. Such a development charter will succeed when anchored on strong institutions, institutions that enable rather than obstruct, that solve problems rather than multiply, that encourage enterprise rather than frustrate, and that make it easier for people to work, invest, innovate, build, and create wealth. Great nations, fellow citizens, are never built by chance. They are built by design, by discipline, and by deliberate, focused national purpose. Ours should be no exception. National development must never be left to chance or short-term politics. It must be guided by a shared national vision that endures beyond administrations and election cycles. A combination of the robust democratic society we have built and a well-crafted national development charter anchored on the economic and social rights enshrined in the Constitution is the potent ingredient necessary for the quantum leap that will make up for past missed opportunities and take us into the first world nation that we rightfully should be. Fellow citizens, Article 3 of our Constitution places a solemn obligation upon every Kenyan to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. Every Kenyan. That duty extends beyond merely safeguarding its provisions. It obligates each one of us to build a broad national consensus on the destiny of our republic. The future of Kenya is too important to be left to politicians alone. It must be imagined, shaped, and built by each one and all of us. Patriotism, therefore, is not only measured by what we say about our country. It is also measured by what we contribute to it, what we build for it, and what we protect within it. Once we, as a people, define the national framework for realizing the aspirations in our Constitution, we will have settled the question of our destiny. Thereafter, the true contest of democracy should be about who has the best ideas, the soundest policies, and the best capability to take us there faster, more efficiently, and more inclusively. That is the political competition our nation deserves. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not a theoretical discourse. The decisions we make today will determine whether our Constitution becomes the greatest instrument of our national transformation in our history, or the greatest opportunity we missed. The defining task of our generation, therefore, is to forge a shared national development charter that translates constitutional aspirations into deliberate action, measurable progress, and lasting national transformation. This is how constitutional ideals become possibilities. This is how rights become opportunities. This is how aspirations become achievement. And this is how prosperity becomes lived reality. We must not merely state what our Constitution says. We must fulfill its highest purpose. Citizens, this is the conversation I invite our nation to have. It is not a conversation about producing another government document. It is about forging a new national consensus on the country we intend to become and the standards by which we shall measure our progress. It is about translating constitutional ideals into measurable development outcomes, outcomes into better lives, and better lives into national transformation and shared prosperity. If the defining achievement of those who came before us was to give Kenya a constitution worthy of our aspirations, then the defining responsibility of our generation is to build a nation worthy of that constitution. Over the past several months, I have engaged and sought the counsel of current and former national leaders, of political leaders, scholars, business leaders, faith leaders, professionals, civil society, grassroots representatives, and most importantly, young Kenyans from every part of our republic. Those interactions reinforced one conviction above all: a vision worthy of guiding Kenya for the next generation cannot be written by government. It cannot be crafted by a handful of experts, however distinguished they may be. Nor can it emerge from a single institution or political formation. It must be forged through a genuinely people-driven, citizen-centered, and future-focused national process. One that draws upon the collective wisdom, experience, imagination, and aspirations of the Kenyan people, while remaining open to the very best ideas the world has to offer. It was in that spirit that I invited Professor Hiroyuki Hino, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, and their distinguished colleagues to begin examining Kenya's future beyond the Vision 2030. Last week, I had the honor of receiving their proposals on strategic guidelines for Kenya's long-term national transformation. The thrust of their proposal is both ambitious but also achievable. That Kenya can become a prosperous, high-income, industrialized, and globally competitive nation within one generation, provided we remain united in purpose, disciplined in execution, and unwavering in our commitment to long-term national transformation. These proposals provide the foundation for a much broader national conversation, a conversation that now belongs not to government, not to the authors of that report, but to every Kenyan. Fellow citizens, somewhere in Kenya tonight is a child too young to understand this address. Some may never remember Vision 2030. Others may never remember even this conversation, but they will live in the Kenya we choose to build. That is why this landmark national conversation is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It is about all of us and also the generations that will inherit the republic we will leave behind. Our Constitution places public participation at the very heart of governance. It is therefore not merely my desire, but my constitutional duty to ensure that the national vision which succeeds Vision 2030 is shaped through an inclusive, transparent, people-driven, and genuinely national process. Accordingly, on Wednesday, the 12th of August, 2026, we shall formally launch a national conversation on Kenya's future beyond Vision 2030, the most consequential exercise in national reflection and public participation since the promulgation of our Constitution in 2010. We shall bring together every institution of our republic, every county and every generation, leaders from political parties, the private sector, workers' organizations, faith communities, universities, professional associations, innovators, civil society, our creative industry, and above all, our young people will be at the center. In 2010, we gave ourselves a constitution worthy of our dreams. The task of our generation is to build a nation worthy of that constitution. We have secured the foundations of our democracy. Let us now secure the foundations of our prosperity. Fulfill what only the left of our constitution that its highest. Let us rise together. Right, that next chapter of our republic. God bless you all. God bless Kenya. And I thank you.
Mlololo TV hoyino mwami William Samoei Ruto akabana bolangu abashere bolangu bishiba uliro bulai sana tawe yakabona olusungu tupu olusungu lweno mlololo TV no engati mbara cyabukhane lokhola bakhulitonyamo kana mushipini sho mwami daily macheneke voka baadaye lakini obuli wa William Samoei Ruto witsanga khobolala boshibala nsha Kenya ndebala birwanye amaendeleo kabana kholanga karekare mutimbara zo boshibala nsha Kenya ene bokho mandi manje ke kholanga mutimbara cyabukhane kumbuka kwa kabana kholonda kho michenika no khullo mutimbara cyabukhane khullo mushibala nsha Kenya mpaka mutimbara cyabukhane mbucho shibala sha Kenya kabana bole kho tofauti na shaguzire sana bantu benya khurira makho makali khullo kho mwami William Samoei Ruto lakini yafanani yebisire ni yefinyire sana alichokuba nabo nangali khuba le khasundu siye abamenye besho Kenya kabana nabo kama endeleo ambako na kemisala yakanda khawona khona kana ka education yakabala khona kana mutimbara cyabukhane ko gutirisha gutisia nende khwenjeresia obulai nende bulala bushobola sha Kenya khula mutimbara cyabukhane na imbara bolo nonyolange bitonyo timbaka tifutia Facebook atalia TV digital timbara cheneto nakumbuka nyangino khabolo ndako mchenekano nukhula ano mu county na Kakamega timbaka cha Milimani na khubala ngamba murio sono bosi bakho landalanga burimo bitsangano mruchi William Samoei Ruto yakhabola katere fundi Noah abona ngambo akhunyola jirili ingwala afu na hayamulisha mruchi shibula cha Kenya mnjedana eneo ili ingwala afu kuchochele mapema saa 12 enda zidaka 50 lakini hula isena kumalanga hula ngambo mrio sana usana kulondra na timbeka cha Facebook na kulondra timbeka teneto hulio kama Luya TV digital na timbeka cha YouTube pande hulio kama Luya TV na bandu bale confusion indi shukuli hu LHY hu Facebook ta huli hu LUYA alafu na timbeka cha YouTube khulende HUYH alafu nende nocha timbeka tena josi biene ibone station nama timbeka cha website lebona kunyola kama Luya TV digital na timbeka cha fo bena kunyola kwa pang 116 timbeka cha Star Times 200 mana timbeka cha Go TV 116 sibana nga mwami Benjamin Andanje timbeka cha kabiri kwa banende timu inamba nalimo omwami COF mwami producer mwami Professor Ishuya producer mukali mwami Riyant na timbeka cha kabiri kwa bende manager wefu nalondanga timbeka cha kabiri omwami Malik Abdalla alafu nende mwami mkhonyere wa chairman wefu ule COF mwami solo kusimba nasi mwami Benjamin Andanje ambola ngambo ushwali yako shiranga maroro shingono mwami amala bolanga lakini kosi nende kosi banende shiroshle kona neferenje kwa kana khande baadaye inonlia TV imoni yomluya
Amakeni